Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. So my name is Laura Jordana. I am a technical marketing director of technical marketing at Nutanix. And so for the next few minutes, I'll be walking through the demo, and Ashwini and Jesse will be here to help support as well. If there's any questions, I'm going to sit down if that's okay, because it's kind of hard to bend over a little table here.
Laura's too tall.
Yeah. But as we can see here, right, this is the interface for Nutanix Enterprise AI. So it's a Kubernetes application. It can essentially run on any Kubernetes. So it can run on our own platform and Nutanix Kubernetes platform. It can also run on EKS or other cloud Kubernetes instances. But here, so what we have here is I'm logged in as the admin. So if we were to kind of take a day in the life, a user story of I'm an admin, an IT admin, say, and I've been getting a request from one of my developers. I want to deploy, they want to be able to develop against a specific model, or they want an endpoint that they can test against. So as the IT admin, I don't have to understand all the capabilities and understand data science and what they're actually doing on the back end. I just need to know how to log into the Nutanix Enterprise AI interface, download a model, serve up an endpoint, and hand that over to my developer. So I'll walk through kind of how easy that is. So looking here at the dashboard, logging in, right, as Ashwini was mentioning, we can see all of the endpoints that are active, right? What are the top 5 talkers? So I can see like who's getting the most requests. I actually do have DeepSeek here, even though Ashwini said we can't use it. But again, we can import our own custom models. We can see which API keys are being used the most, and what the trends are looking like in terms of successful and valid requests, failed requests, what the health of our infrastructure is. So that's really important for an IT admin to understand the impact of these endpoints and models on their infrastructure, so they can kind of monitor the usage, the CPU usage for all of my nodes here.
Can I ask just a quick question?
Sure.
What do you consider an endpoint?
So the endpoint is like so if you're using like ChatGPT or something like that, right, and you're asking it a question, it's connecting over an API to back that the model's being backed by that API. So if we walk through it, it'll maybe make a little more sense.
Okay. So if I'm connecting, making a query to one of the models, am I an endpoint?
So you're connecting to an endpoint. So yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So so coming over here to the models page here. So we have right now a bunch of models that we've imported or connected to already. So one of the key benefits is that we can connect to multiple types of model hubs. So right, Hugging Face, right? We've validated, as Ashwini mentioned, several models here. I can't unlock the brightness, but that's fine. So we have a bunch of models here. So for example, I can select a small model. I can click on import. I can put in the name I want to give it. Hopefully that's not already taken. And it basically, it'll carve out the storage on the back end, download that model, and get it ready to be used in an endpoint. So what that looks like is, and again, we can also import custom models manually if it's not in that list. On the NVIDIA NIM side, right, we validated a bunch of models here. So these are models that can help support agentic workflows, right, like embedding models, safety models, re-ranking, et cetera. And we're continually adding to that kind of that validated list. So once you have a model ready, so we have a bunch of models that are already active, we come over to endpoints, and this is where we actually create that inference engine connection to that model. So the model is just a bunch of files, right? We need to create the access to that model. So we come here to create endpoint, right? We give it a name. Usually a better name would be good to kind of match what we're actually doing here. But so we can, for example, look at the Mistral model here. We can select what GPUs we want to use, the number of GPUs per instance, right? So if we have a large model, we can split that up. And one of the key benefits, as Ashwini mentioned, is we already fill in kind of the configuration. So the admin doesn't have to figure out what do they need to be able to successfully run this model. We've already kind of done that heavy lifting for them.
A question, just excuse me, just back on the endpoint name. Could I think of the endpoint name as just maybe the application that I'm going to be serving, or the other part of my infrastructure or application that needs access to this model, right? That I'm going to be submitting information to.
Yeah, I mean, I think it would make the most sense to kind of name it after the model that you're using, and then maybe the API key would be tied to whatever application is using that model.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So yeah, so let's rename that to Mistral 7B so it kind of aligns more with the instance name. We give all that information and then we add the API key. So we have some API keys already created, or we can create a new one here. So I'll go ahead and just create a demo key, copy that out, and then once this model gets, once this endpoint gets deployed, it'll be in a pending state. Once it gets deployed, then we'll be able to use that API key and then use the information to connect and use that in our application. So to kind of just speed things up a little here, it'll take about 5 minutes or so. We'll use one of the models we already have. So for example, we have, again, DeepSeek and this Llama 381B model that's already in an active state. So as the IT admin, when I see that it's active, I can come in and say, okay, the model's active, let's test it out and make sure it's good to go for our developer. So we can test it and see, okay, it's returning a response. It's not giving any errors. So we can be kind of satisfied that it's working, right? So that they know that it's working. And then they can come over here, gather the API key, view the sample request, and hand that off to their developer, and then use that in your application. And so these models, right, that support those agentic workflows, right, we can, include the tool calling in the sample request as well. So it does have that capability. And do you want to elaborate on that a little bit, or?
Sure,
Yeah.
sure. So I think this comes back to the whole agent story, where there's a lot of buzz in terms of everybody writing a tool that can be invoked by AI. And so this is essentially enabling that tool calling where the request actually registers the format in which the tool is going to be exposed. And then the LLM is able to make a call or make a decision on which tool to use.
Hi, Jack Pollard, Paradigm Technica. Can you, is the API key only embedded in your UI, or can you do stuff with key management and shared sequence managers?
So you can, you can, of course, copy it out to a key manager. It's not, we don't have an integration today, but.
That seems a little risky, so.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And I think the concern we had was, I think what we heard was most customers already have a mechanism baked in for keys. So it's a little bit hard to get them to kind of migrate over to a new way, but you're absolutely right. That's a great, to integrate, yes.
To integrate is important, but to have the key embedded in the product and not in a protected vault, that is just the way you have.
It's not embedded.
It's not in plain text or anything like that, right?
Sorry, maybe we didn't get your question.
Well, it seems like from the user interface that the API key is right there. So
well, it's grayed out, right?
Yeah. So once it's been generated,
only a few.
You've copied it, much like other platforms.
You won't be able,
to
access
see it again.
So the only way to access it, is
because it's just a bunch of.
you would have to rotate it if you want to get a new key if you lost it.
Yeah. So it isn't accessible once you've generated it.
You can only copy it the first time.
So it's not just masked there.
No,
you just saved the parts there that we're seeing with the mask on it.
Correct.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes,
Yeah,
you're
I think
right.
saved on
It's
the front end.
the key isn't saved and
Yeah.
retrievable. You're right.
And one thing you can also do, if you believe a API key has been compromised and rotating is not an option, you can actually
delete it.
deactivate it.
Yep.
Sorry.
Yeah, so all the API keys are managed here, right? And you can, this one I think I just created, I can just deactivate it since I'm not using it anyways.
So at this point, when you turn this over to the AI developer, I guess that's the term I will use there, they can write an app against that LLM.
Yes.
Yep.
What about all the other capabilities that we talk about within the AI data analysis, whether or not we're going to add in more augmented data into there, whether or not we need to train it on our data. So I've got an LLM here, but I've got some private data that I want to train it on and tune it up with, et cetera. How do I do that with your system?
Got it. So in terms of training, so this one is actually strictly an inferencing product.
Okay.
But then we do allow training on the Nutanix platform. So the Nutanix platform, of course, has storage, which is high speed, and we actually have MLPerf benchmarks that we kind of ran.
Mhm.
And so we have a platform on which it's training ready. But I think this product itself is just for inferencing, basically because I think most of our customers, they are looking at consuming LLMs rather than training them from scratch.
And does this product have a name other than Nutanix?
Nutanix Enterprise AI.
Enterprise AI.
Yeah.
Okay, that just rings straight there. Okay, it should be Enterprise AI for inferencing, because if you have the other ones, then because you would think if it's Enterprise AI, you're thinking that it's covering the gamut, but you're not covering the gamut with this.
We could in the future. So the thing is,
Yeah.
we're new. We're the new kid on the block, and we're
Okay.
looking for
Yeah.
feedback to evolve.
It was
So,
definitely discussed.
Yeah.
I think as you guys continue to build out the product,
yes.
you know,
It'll come
if you incorporated, let's say, RAG components, then it would lock us in, like,
We want to have room.
now
Yeah, then we don't have a way out.
it
Like
becomes a
we
product
can't
marketing
expand.
nightmare for the folks in the back.
Yes,
So
sorry.
one interesting question, Jim Sprinsky from ZDC. I was looking at the list of models you had, the initial list of 17 models, and some of those are marked failed. I'm curious what that means. Is it that it failed, which is fine. I mean,
Yeah.
is there, yeah, does
so
that mean,
there's little tooltips next to it that tells you why. So in this case, our
oh, okay.
invalid. Yeah.
Oh, so like you just failed that one token, right?
Yeah. So
So
whatever
now
token was
anything
used.
that,
This is actually a different token, by the way.
Different token.
oh,
yeah.
okay, never mind.
So
Use a token to pull the model.
Oh, that's a
so
good.
Oh, I
point.
see.
That's a good point. So
I'm
one thing I
sorry.
didn't show. Oh yeah, one thing I didn't show
Which
is
is fine.
this is where the credentials are set for, because you need credentials to access these repos,
Sure.
right? So
Sure.
you set those credentials, and apparently Jesse's is wrong because.
So
and so you put them here,
I
and then
rotate my keys all the time. So
yeah,
Hey.
yeah.
they're in my Hugging
Good on
Face.
you.
I could see, having just done some of this in another cloud, I could see where, you know, this kind
Yeah,
of,
yeah.
kind of thing of, why isn't it working for a data scientist?
Right,
It's just like, I just need to get in there and start using, oh, don't even waste your time with that.
Yeah.
right.
Is excellent,
Yeah.
excellent.
Yeah,
Good point.
and some additional error handling would include, like, if you haven't accepted the end user licensing agreement.
Yes.
So
Ah.
for particular models where you need that, it
Right,
would actually
yeah.
tell
right.
you your Hugging Face token is valid, but you
Right.
haven't
You
accepted
don't
the
have
U
the
license.
options.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So at this point, this endpoint, I could start throwing a query against this and see how this thing works.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
Right.
Yep. Yeah. Just
And
with
that
the
was the test.
if we come back here, yeah, we did the test, and then we give a sample curl command also, so you can take this, plug in your API key, and then
And at this point, am I going out to the public
No.
No.
internet at this point?
No.
I'm still inside
all
my
local.
firewall,
Yes.
Yep.
right?
So this
So
is
this can,
completely inside your data center.
just inside my data center.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
excellent.
And the good thing about this API format is it's OpenAI
Yeah,
compatible. So even though you're not going to OpenAI or the
Right.
cloud, your endpoint within your data center is now speaking the same API. So if you have an open source project that is written for OpenAI, it'll just work
Yep.
and you can consume it.
Yeah. So
This-
there's a lot of tools. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
There's a lot of tools like anything LLM, for example, right? You can connect to any endpoint, and there's like an OpenAI custom or generic that you just plug this in and it works right away. Like, there's
And
no
so
tweaking to do.
Another advantage here, of course, is that I don't want anybody sending out anything proprietary
Right.
Yes.
Right.
Exactly.
by accident
Exactly.
to OpenAI and
Yep.
reveal the formula to my
Yeah.
Widget
radioactive
factory.
paint.
Keep
or
it all
whatever might
keep
be.
it all
I don't know.
local. Yep.
That's right.
Okay.
Yes.
When you're pulling models, is there one token for Hugging Face, or can I have separate tokens for different models?
So it is.
Or is it always his?
It's
It's per user.
it's per user.
Yeah, so you can have, one thing I didn't show was you can create multiple users on the system that are either also admins that can see a global view of everything. Or for example, if you want to give just access to like a data scientist or developer so they can just build their own or create their own endpoints, you can do that as well. And then they have limited view, but they use their own tokens and things like that.
So I'd like to ask a couple of questions on the infrastructure side of the solution. can you elaborate? Does this runs on top of AHV or VMware, or does this runs alongside a CVM on Nutanix? Do you need to have specific kind of Nutanix nodes to run that? And also, and maybe it's a bit more of an extra question to that, how is that kind of license? Do you need to have an extra subscription to use that?
Yeah, so I can answer the first question. So it's a Kubernetes application, so it can run on any Kubernetes, basically CNCF certified. So for Nutanix, that's going to be Nutanix Kubernetes platform. We can run on Amazon EKS or Azure or Google's GKE, OpenShift, and other ones as well. And so it runs on top of that. So that, again, if it's NKP, it's running on Nutanix AHV, but yeah, the CVM's a little bit separate.
Yeah. But in this particular environment, it's running 100% on top of an EKS cluster.
Yeah. Yeah.
So to answer your question, it's actually running on 0 Nutanix right now. Nutanix infrastructure.
No.
Okay, good.
I apologize.
Hardware,
Right.
you're still running on
Software
Nutanix
company.
software.
Nutanix software.
Okay, so hang on.
Thanks.
Now
You just
now
really
you've lost me.
confused her.
Okay.
Okay, so physically, what am I looking at if I'm looking at this platform?
Maybe we can-
Nothing, just a
compute
laptop
option,
that's
just-
connected
just
to
No.
the cloud?
compute.
Oh,
Yeah, just to.
yeah, so it's running on this Kubernetes cluster right now.
On a so it's running on servers.
It's running on
To
servers
servers.
somewhere.
Yeah.
Yep.
So-
yeah, we have an on-premises as well as cloud.
As
right?
well,
So
okay.
basically, we want to give people the
Anywhere you can
choice.
put a Kubernetes cluster,
That's the
you
point.
can
Exactly.
make.
That's the point I'm
Yes,
trying to get
for
at.
that.
So
Okay.
anywhere you have a Kubernetes distribution deployed,
He doesn't.
Okay.
the idea is that this gets
Great.
deployed as a Helm chart. This obviously says EC2, but this is an EKS
Okay,
cluster.
sure.
So each node is an EC2 instance under the covers. And in this case, if you look on the far right, we have a total number of GPUs of 6. This guy right here is an L40S node pool with 4 GPUs per node. So it's actually only a single node with 48 vCPUs, 372 gigs of memory, and 4 GPUs on a single node. And then these two guys are L4 nodes. So these two nodes have 1 GPU each, and this guy has 4 GPUs on a single node, which basically allows you to leverage tensor parallelization and deploy larger models that require more than the 1 or 2 GPUs that they may need to run their instance. The other thing to kind of touch on is when we download our models, it's leveraging CSI drivers, storage classes to effectively deploy the models. And in our case, because these models can be deployed with replicas to enable HA, we typically require files-based storage, so like NFS, read-write many, so that multiple models can basically run directly from that NFS export and read and write from that one endpoint, from that one NFS share.
So we will see that all is based on an EKS cluster, right?
Yes.
Or a Kubernetes cluster.
Yes.
And about integration, are these exposing API, or is there a CRD, or what's a?
For it, under the covers, there's CRDs, there's controllers.
Yeah.
So for example, the downloading of the model is leveraging a model controller, which basically takes care of making sure that a persistent volume claim is created.
Okay.
Leveraging the storage class you define. So in our case, because we're running within AWS, we're leveraging EFS.
Yeah.
For our NFS, rewrite many use case. And then subsequently, if you're in a Nutanix environment, you'll be leveraging Nutanix files and so forth, respectively, with other providers.
Okay. Gotcha.
So the whole idea is, if you need storage, you can leverage storage from Nutanix, or you can leverage the native storage that's in a given provider.
From platform engineer perspective, from platform management perspective in general. So this thing should be integrated with a master dashboard or the implementation that the customer already has.
So for like multi-fleet management?
Yeah.
Yeah, so one of the solutions that we provide with NKP is multi cluster fleet management. So that's actually one of the kind of driving scenarios for customers who are looking to not run in a public cloud, but are looking for an enterprise class Kubernetes distribution.
Yeah.
That's where we typically would approach them with D2IQ and with the D2 acquisition, we are now providing NKP as a platform, and that gives you a lot of the multi-cluster fleet management, GitOps workflows, the CI/CD workflows, if you will, the integration, and obviously there's tighter integration with Nutanix platforms. So there's things that you could leverage within Nutanix that would become a lot easier to consume. So when you're thinking about, and earlier we had asked a question around like Nutanix AI, that's kind of the name, but some folks, the previous versions were referred to as GPT in a box, because the first idea was that we would provide an appliance that had everything that you needed, from virtualization, so the hypervisor, from a storage perspective, from Kubernetes perspective. So in one appliance, you can effectively deploy everything that you needed to provide a fully air gap disconnected environment.
Gotcha. Thank you.